Aloha and welcome to Trust and Verify, and it is Mueller time. That's right. We're going to have a good show tonight. We got a big one planned for you. I want to say prayers and well wishes to one of our viewers that were in the audience that just informed us Voice of Reason is in the hospital. So everybody say a prayer for him. We don't know why. He probably stubbed his toe. Let's hope. But before we get to any of the fun and games, we got to introduce my friend, my partner, my co-host, Boogie Bumper. Boogie, how's it going, brother?
It's Mueller time, baby. Baby, it's Judgment Day. The orange bastard is going down, motherfucker. Woo! Woo! Yeah! 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 He's gonna be indicted. You Trump motherfuckers drinking the Kool-Aid. Today is your day. Today is your day. James, how have you been? Big weekend, mate. You having fun? Are you laughing? Are you laughing?
Oh, having a blast, dude. We've been laughing all weekend. I think starting Friday, it was great. They dropped it. We had Pirate Radio, then we had Ladies of Liberty. Now we got Trust and Verify. It's been a spectacular weekend for me.
Well, it's basically the whole show is just one long hammering. I don't know if you want to play the hammering now, just get it out of the way.
Just get it out of the way. We'll play the intro now.
Do it.
All right, here we go. We're the entire episode hammering. Here you go.
Here you go.
Stop the hammering.
Stop the hammering.
Yeah.
Well, James,
stop the hammering.
While you were enjoying your weekend, CNN was getting to the bottom of how Trump was enjoying his inside Trump's evening for the ages when he learned Mueller was done. On the evening, Robert Mueller submitted his report to the Justice Department, ending the special counsel investigation that has clouded all but a few months of his presidency. President Donald Trump was not huddled in a war room or dictating defiant tweets to his underlings. Instead, he was on the tiled patio of Mar-a-Lago, James, bathed in golden light, with his wife and son Barron, who had reached teenagerhood just 2 days earlier. In the eyes of the president and his aides, many of whom traveled to South Florida for the weekend, it was a moment to celebrate the conclusion of an investigation that did not find enough evidence to indict the president. You can see already what we're doing here, can't you? Or his confidants for conspiring with Russia to win the 2016 election. See the way they word that. Even they can't even help themselves. There will be no mea culpa. But what we're going to do is forcibly shove the mea culpa right up their ass here tonight on this little show, on this little corner of the internet. You are going to mea culpa, damn it, whether you like it or not. There wasn't enough evidence to indict the president for conspiring with Russia. Or maybe he didn't conspire with Russia. I don't know. You figure it out. Whether the end of Mueller's probe means the end of Trump's long legal albatross or just the beginning is largely a matter for Congress. Well, we know which way that's going to fall, don't we? We know what Congress is going to do. And the various other prosecutors who have taken on ancillary investigations, James. This was Mad Maxine Waters earlier today on speaking with Joy Reid, the homophobe.
And you have Donald Trump's supporters, including his former UN ambassador, Nikki Haley, out there tweeting and saying, essentially presuming that the president has been exonerated by the report. And
Presuming. No.
Yes, that's what we call innocent until proven guilty in the United States. That's the presumption of innocence.
Yes, and when a special prosecutor, James, comes down and says, I don't think that there is enough. I don't think that there will be any more indictments, no more prosecutions. Well, they're only doing that because maybe the wise old heads like Maxine Waters can ascertain some reason to prosecute, some reason to indict, that the guy whose sole job for the last 2 years of looking for reasons to do exactly that couldn't find. Because she's a genius. She's a savant.
Haley's case, saying that it's been completed and everyone should just move on. It's a curious position to take since we don't know what's in the report.
It's a curious position to take. We don't know what's in the report. We do know, though, that Robert Mueller has said there will be no more indictments, no more prosecutions. Well, are you sure about that? Are you sure about that, Rob? Maxine isn't.
But do you see colleagues on the other side of the aisle sort of declaring this whole thing at an end and wanting no further inquiry? I know that the House has something like 80 subpoenas still out.
Yeah, what are we going to do with all these subpoenas now? Well, we got to keep the pressure on. Keep the foot down, James.
Absolutely. Well, I want to tell you that this president has a way of trying to get into people's heads and indoctrinate them. He's been saying no collusion, no collusion, no collusion over and over.
He's been saying no. Do you see how twisted, how bitter and twisted you would have to be? The president has been saying all along, no collusion, no collusion, no collusion, no collusion. The Mueller report gets handed in. There's no collusion. Maxine Waters uses this as an opportunity to attack the president. Oh, so he's clearly indoctrinating people. He's clearly trying to get in our heads by saying no collusion. Maybe Mueller is compromised too, James.
Over again for a long time now, and he's going to try and conclude that this report is proving that there's no collusion, and you have.
But you're going to try and conclude that the report is proving that there's collusion, even though the guy who wrote the report said no more indictments, no prosecutions. How stupid are these people, James? Jesus Christ.
A lot of his sycophants who will, take the nod from him, and they'll say the same thing. But we cannot allow them to get away with this.
Get away with what? Oh, my God.
We cannot allow them to get away with stating the obvious, the truth. It cannot be allowed. We must spin this to our detriment.
James, seriously, he can't get away. He can't keep getting away with this. He can't keep getting away with this.
He cannot keep getting away with being innocent. God damn it. We're Congress. We can make anyone we want guilty.
Exactly. We've got 80 subpoenas out there.
Is not the end of anything. This is it's the end of the report and the investigation by Mueller. But those of us who chair these committees have a responsibility to continue with our oversight.
There you go. The investigation will not stop. The investigations will continue. See, they just don't. You've got to tip your hat to these motherfuckers sometimes, don't you? They just don't miss a beat. They do not miss a beat. The Mueller report comes down, says no more indictments, no more prosecutions. There's no evidence here of any collusion. The Democrats are like, Mueller? Who the fuck's Mueller? They've been blowing him up for the last 2 years, saying what a great guy he is. Yeah, I mean, look at this. Report. Adam Schiff says Robert Mueller made a mistake relying on Trump's written responses, James. Now Mueller fucked up. It's all Mueller's fault. Look.
There's no public evidence that Robert Mueller even interviewed Don Jr. We know he didn't interview the president. Mistake?
Yes, I think, and I've said this all along, it was a mistake to rely on written responses by the president.
Oh, man. It was a mistake, James. Mueller fucked up. He fucked it up. He fucked it all up. Oh, James.
Yeah.
Dems warn of subpoenas to obtain Mueller report.
House Democrats ramping up their fight to see the full Robert Mueller report, threatening to use subpoena power to get it and insisting the public will is overwhelmingly on their side for full transparency. CNN's Manu Raju is on Capitol Hill. Manu, tell us more about what Democrats are saying.
Well, they're demanding full release of the report and the underlying evidence that led Robert Mueller to make decisions about who to prosecute and who not to prosecute. And they're warning that subpoenas could come if they don't get what they want, if they don't get briefings as they've been asking. Now, in talking points.
If they don't get what they want, like the petulant children that they are.
But they do know that they can't subpoena classified documents, right? Like, because the Mueller report, it's up to the AG or ultimately the president if the AG doesn't want to make a call, whether it gets released or not. It's not up to the House Democrats.
Their subpoenas don't even have the weight of law, really. They all they can do is go there and plead the fifth, and that includes delivering documents. They literally have no right to those documents. And this is what they're trying to do. and everybody out here should really know it. I'm sure that in our audience, they already do. But according to the numbers directly from William Barr today on his release, 500 people were interviewed.
Wow.
500. That's unheard of on its own. They tried to literally pull up the seat cushions to find a crime. 500 people. Now, let me remind you, that's pretty much like 495 completely 100% top to bottom innocent people, because there will be no more indictments. I want you to understand. There will be no more indictments. That's crystal clear, cut and dry, end of language. 500 innocent people are what Congress wants to expose. That's what the people are guaranteed by our system of justice to not happen. That's the whole reason why grand jury testimony is sealed, so that the innocent people don't suffer from the innuendo of bullshit. That's the whole point of it. And our system of justice, by the way, is predicated on this fact. Better that 100 guilty men go free than one innocent man go to prison. Now, these people are trying everything to say that we have to prove we're innocent. No, fucksticks. This is America, and guess whose turn it is now? Ours. You had your hammer. Your hammer's gone. Now we're going to fucking hammer you into oblivion with the obvious truth.
And look, this is something we've spoken about on this show and other shows for months and months and months, James. We've been saying all along, the whole point of this is not to uncover some kind of corruption. It's not to uncover some kind of truth. The reason that the Democrats are going to keep rolling with this, at what appears to be their own detriment, is it's just all about having a cloud of doubt over the president heading into the election in 2020. That's why they're going to continue on with their investigation, their quote unquote investigations. It's we have a duty to continue investigating Russia, even though the guy that we hired to investigate Russia came back and said the investigation's over. It's not over. It's not over. We're going to keep this going at least through till 2020. Look at this, James. Look, I want to do a little bit of Cher here. If I could turn back time. This is July last year, James. Are you ready for this? Strap in, mate.
Joining us now from Memphis, Tennessee Congressman Steve Cohn. He's a Democrat.
Tennessee.
He's a member of the House Judiciary Committee. Let me get your quick reaction, Congressman, to what Ruth Bader Ginsburg now says.
She survived 2 cancers. She can survive anything. She's physically active. She's mentally strong. She's brilliant. We need her for at least 2.5 years. I think
just letting the cat out of the bag there, didn't he? We need her for at least 2.5 more years. Then she can fucking retire. Not before, Ruth.
she makes it, and she serves America admirably.
Let me ask you about the president's attacks on the news media here in the United States, calling the news media the enemy of the American people. As you know, the new publisher of the New York Times warned the president during a private off-the-record meeting that his attacks, the president's attacks, could actually lead to violence against members of the news media. Do you believe that people could take the president's vitriol as a call to arms?
I definitely think they could. I've seen a lot of his supporters. They listen and believe everything that they put out. It's like
I've seen a lot of Trump supporters. They believe and listen to everything he puts out. By virtue of that, by definition, they're not listening to us. That's why they're a problem.
James Jones, and they drank the Kool-Aid.
Drinking the Kool-Aid.
I'm afraid that he could incite them to violence. A lot of them are on the.
It gets better because remember, get
your Kool-Aid, everybody.
Yes. We'll take a line from Scott Adams: a simultaneous sip of Kool-Aid. There you go. But remember, this is July last year, James. Speaking of Kool-Aid, are you thirsty?
Edge anyway, and it's unfortunate what he said. The free press is important to America as a bulwark of democracy and the rule of law.
Yep.
It was an off-the-record meeting, but then the president tweeted about...
Speaking about how important the free press is, James, to bring vital information to the people.
About the meeting, and as a result, Sulzberger, the publisher...
Real news.
Bennett, the editorial page editor, decided to give their version as well. Let's get to another new development, Congressman. The president launching the most personal attack yet on the special counsel, Robert Mueller, talking about non-specific conflicts of interest, calling it the Robert Mueller witch hunt now all of a sudden. What do you think of this latest attack on the special counsel?
Here we go.
When you can't defend yourself against the facts and the truth that the president knows will come out in the report, you attack the investigators.
Oh, what? What?
We're going to fucking hammer these bastards with their own words. I love it.
Wait, you wouldn't be talking. So when you can't defend yourself against the facts that come out in the investigation, you start hitting the investigator? Is that what he just said? Ladies and gentlemen, let's return to our friend Adam Schiff.
There's no public evidence that Robert Mueller even interviewed Don Jr. We know he didn't interview the president. Mistake?
I don't have the video.
Yes, I think, and I've said this all along, it was a mistake to rely on written responses by the president. That's generally more what the lawyer has to say than what the individual has to say. I can certainly understand why the lawyers like Giuliani were fighting this, because the president is someone who seems pathologically incapable of telling the truth for long periods of time. But nonetheless, if you really do want the truth, you need to put people under oath.
Wow.
What is? First of all, that's a fucking innuendo lie that he just said right there. That you have to put people under oath. Let me tell you, a sworn legal document has more weight than being sworn oath under speaking, because you can't change the words on the paper because it requires forethought to write them down. Whereas when you're speaking, you get a little bit of leeway for misspeaking. So that's a fact of law. Literally, that is like a lie that he just put out there. We told you why he's really pissed, why they're really, really pissed. And a lot of people besides us have said this, is the whole point was it was a perjury trap. If he never talks, you can't get him in a perjury trap. That's the whole point. That's why he's pissed off, because they didn't get shit. That there's literally one guy in this whole thing that's getting fucked by a quote unquote perjury trap right now, which we're pretty sure the evidence is going to come out and prove him completely innocent. And that's General Flynn. Look what they did to him over a couple of words.
Absolutely, James. But it's not over, James. I want to take you back to May 7th of last year, if I could turn back time. When the video loads.
That we saw before. Well, there's something else to consider, Natasha, because Giuliani has said that Mueller definitely should back off on Ivanka. Don't involve her in this Russia probe. First of all, do you agree with Giuliani? And what are you hearing about the strategy from Mueller so far?
The reason that we're playing these clips from last year and earlier in the year, James, is because never let these people fucking forget the madness, the bullshit, the insanity that they were laying out there as though it was reality.
As
never let them forget.
In general is concerned.
He's saving them for last because he knows that if he starts to go...
He's saving Ivanka and Jared Kushner for last, James. Well, he's leaving it a little fucking late, isn't he?
Do you agree with Giuliani? And what are you hearing about the strategy from Mueller so far as the Trump family in general is
strategy.
concerned?
He's saving them for last because he knows that if he starts to go after Trump's children now, it's going to really, really annoy the president, and it could completely derail any kind of negotiations that they're having now for him to sit down for an interview. If he goes after Ivanka, Jared, of course, as Giuliani said, is disposable. But if he goes after Ivanka, he knows that is going to really, really anger the president. Now, she absolutely...
This is the free press, James. Who the fuck are you, darling? Who the fuck are you? Oh, Robert Mueller's strategy is to leave Ivanka till last because otherwise he's going to make the president really, really mad. You should be teaching fucking kindergarten. I feel sorry for the people that read your diatribe. Your disgusting, fluffy nonsense in the Atlantic. What the hell? They're just making it up. She is just making it up. Making it up. This is what they've done for the last 2 years.
Here because she was present for some of the most significant events that Mueller is investigating. Of course, she was there when the president decided to fire Jim Comey. She was a witness to the drafting of this misleading statement about the Trump Tower meeting. So she's at the center of all of this. So for her,
she's at the center of all of it. She's at the center of all of it, James. No more indictments. No more indictments.
It gets better. It gets better than no more indictments because a crystal clear statement from William Barr, from Robert Mueller, was that there was no one at all that was guilty of collusion, even an attempt at prosecution of collusion. Not just not Jared, not just not Ivanka. No one. And that goes all the way down to George Papadopoulos. That goes down to Roger Stone, Manafort, and no one, not a single person, not even the fucking Russians were charged with collusion.
James, no, I think what you're doing here is you're trying to misdirect because you're scared. So I think what's happening here is like, this isn't the end of anything, James. And we know that Robert Mueller, do you remember Joe Scarborough? Oh, I think we played the clip on this show maybe 6 months ago. Robert Mueller is an American hero. He's a hero. And he won't be deterred by this kind of over-the-top rhetoric from Donald Trump. Speaking of over-the-top rhetoric, let's take you back to March 15, about almost exactly 1 year ago, James. Chris Matthews.
Trump Watch, Thursday, March 15th, 2018. I think of Donald Trump as the Titanic and Robert Mueller as the iceberg. The Titanic is luxurious, sort of like...
Mayday, Mayday. The iceberg has fucking melted.
Like a Mar-a-Lago. Its rooms are large and beautifully appointed. There's a stateliness to the staterooms. A bit of Ralph Lauren up in first class. Mahogany and green, I'd imagine. The framed pictures of fox hunts on dewy mornings. Aristocrats are welcome here. Out there in the cold distance lies the iceberg. From a safe distance, it appears small, non-threatening. Here on the HMS Trump, the music plays, the on-deck sports...
Say what you will about Chris Matthews, but his poetry is far more entertaining than Beto O'Rourke's.
Continue. All appears warm, calm, triumphant. Someone dares to whisper, not even God himself can sink this ship. But out there in the night, something causes the great ship to shudder. What was that terrible grinding sound, the passengers wonder? What was that tearing at the hull? Well, tonight we got the word that the ship and iceberg have made contact. It's now a matter of time whether the great ship stays afloat or, as we sang at camp, goes to the bottom of it.
Steady on, first mate. First mate, did we hit something? Nah, it's probably a little iceberg. Nothing to worry about. James, it gets even better.
Trump's former lawyer and fixer Michael Cohen is preparing for up to 3 years in prison.
This is about 3 months ago.
Taking responsibility in court and in public for crimes he insists that he largely committed on Donald Trump's behalf, while the president openly blasting Cohen now as a quote.
By the way, which they got from Michael Cohen's written statements, which now apparently don't mean anything because we don't want them to mean anything.
Rat, a term typically used by criminals trying to dissuade others from telling the truth about their crimes. An incriminating pattern of...
The term rat is used by other criminals in order to pressure other criminals not to tell the truth about their crimes. James, it's also used by police. Police also use the term rat.
It is. But I think that you guys in Australia, since you're all criminals, you have an advantage over us. See, that in this, everybody already uses that term in Australia. We use it all here in America too, but apparently we're supposed to pretend that we don't use that term, that only criminals use that term. Therefore, we must all be criminals.
Yes, everybody is a criminal. Anybody who supported Donald Trump over the last 2 years is trying to cover up corruption that Robert Mueller is hiding because maybe Robert Mueller is Putin's cock holster now. Who knows?
Trump publicly interfering in criminal investigations is obviously here for all of us to see. This is part of a larger trend, urging witnesses not to testify.
It's here for all of us to see. This was 3 months ago.
Which legal experts say that only...
They were so sure. They knew the Mueller report was going to come down and the president was going to be indicted. They knew it.
Builds the obstruction case against President Trump.
It was so obvious.
Now I'm joined by Lanny Davis, who's a...
You need to remember the months and months and months and hours and hours and hours and hours of MSNBC. Brian Stelter, James. Brian Stelter. Every single week. As Robert Mueller gets closer to his target, the walls are closing in on President Donald Trump. We have so much evidence now. There is so much evidence coming out from the Mueller report that Donald Trump is guilty of numerous crimes. He finds himself in a lot of trouble. But if you look at Fox News, Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson are living in a state of denial about the president's criminal activities. You have to remember this. Months and months and months and months of this garbage.
Former lawyer for Michael Cohen and a former lawyer for the
Lanny
Clintons.
Davis.
Thanks for coming on the beat tonight.
You're welcome, Harry.
We need to do something to clear up the reputation of a shitbag lawyer. What should we do? I know, bring on a shitbag lawyer.
Start with the larger context, not just Michael Cohen, who you have previously represented, but the way that Donald Trump seems to blatantly discourage or even punish cooperation with law enforcement. What is your view of that?
Well, let's just assume it was not the President of the United States where the issue of obstruction and justice and witness tampering could be the subject of an indictment. Donald Trump should be indicted for calling a cooperating witness a rat.
I like the way Lanny thinks.
Oh, my God.
Lanny doesn't even need evidence. He called somebody a rat. Drag his ass in, James. Drag his ass in. James, let's just take a break. I've got more. I've got way more to go through. But can we just take a break for 5 minutes? I think what we do well on this show is we look on the other side of the fence and we discuss what the Democrats are up to. We figure out what they're doing, and we try to figure out what their supporters think. How do you think their supporters are feeling today? You know, I mean the ones who were like, do you remember when James Comey got brought in to testify and Washington, D.C. basically shut down because everybody was watching the testimony? And they were like, today's the day. Today's the day. How many times can these people be teased up expecting the money shot and then only to leave, you know, with their money out of their wallet and no pleasure whatsoever? Like, how many times can these people be punished like this and still be on the side?
You want to know the truth of how bad their cognitive dissonance is kicked in right now? We haven't been trolled all weekend.
Yeah,
the entire weekend on any scope, any show, no trolls. They're gone. Where's Texas Blue at? Hey, Texas, Philly, where you at, brother?
It's Mueller time, baby. Come on,
it's Mueller time, baby. Where you at?
Let's do this.
I think we actually need a welfare check on Philly. Let's make sure that he's not, drinking his sorrows so badly that he has passed out in a pool of his own vomit.
Proof of life.
This is the problem. Proof of life. We need to make sure that he's still hanging around there. They're in shock. Their cognitive dissonance has shut them down, and they're going to twist again. That's what you're seeing happen right now. But here's the problem for them. They've lost absolutely all of their support from the middle of the country today.
Mm-hmm.
As of Friday, by Monday, they've lost it all. There is not a single person that has an intelligent brain that's in the middle of this country that's going to fall for their shit, because they were promised over and over and over by all of these talking heads, by James Comey, by John Brennan, by Loretta Lynch, by Barack Insane Obama. They were promised that this guy had dirt so far widespread that it was impossible for there not to be an indictment against somebody with the last name Trump. And yet here we are today.
Yeah. And so what do the Democrat leaders do now? You've got to keep people on the plantation, right? You've got to keep them believing. Don't stop believing. Schiff, despite no more Mueller indictments, there is significant evidence of collusion. What? Yeah. It's like it never happened, James. Where is it? I hate these little fucking pop-up videos. Rep. Adam Schiff, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, said Sunday that there is significant evidence of collusion between President Trump's campaign and Russia in the 2016 election, despite special counsel Robert Mueller's lack of indictments related to the issue. Well, how the fuck would he know? On the one hand, you've got Jerry Nadler and Maxine Waters going out there saying, we need to see the report so we can see the evidence that's been collected. Adam Schiff on a different channel at the same fucking time of the day comes on and says, oh, no, there's tons of evidence, even though we couldn't find any in the Mueller report. These people are confused, James. Schiff, appearing on the ABC's This Week, was asked by host George Stephanopoulos how he squares his past assertions that there is evidence of collusion with Mueller's decision not to charge anyone with such crimes. Schiff responded with, quote, significant evidence of collusion and pointed to evidence, this is what evidence is, such as the Trump Tower meeting in 2016 between Trump campaign officials and Russians, as well as alleged communications between former Trump advisor Roger Stone and WikiLeaks. The things that Robert Mueller himself was investigating. The things that Robert Mueller came back and said, oh, no, there's no collusion here. There's no collusion here. Schiff say, yes, there is. Of course there is. But Schiff added, here's the kicker, right? Schiff added, quote, there's a difference between compelling evidence and evidence of collusion. He can prove, and whether Mueller concluded that he can prove beyond a reasonable doubt the criminal charge of conspiracy. So there's a difference between compelling evidence of collusion, James. So obviously he's saying, oh, no, we have evidence. It's just not compelling. We have evidence. It's just not enough to make, it's not enough to turn it into a criminal matter. But that doesn't matter. Remember, the evidence itself is irrelevant. It's just about having the cloud of doubt hanging over the president's head. And unfortunately for the Democrats, I think the harder that they push this now that the Mueller report hasn't gone the way they want it to, the more ridiculous they're going to look. They're going to lose supporters. Did you see Jerry Nadler getting heckled on the street today?
Yeah, in New York.
In New York.
It's awesome.
Great job, dirtbag. Great job, dirtbag. Listen to this. This is Adam Schiff. I have trust in his prosecutorial judgment, but that doesn't mean, of course, that there isn't compelling and incriminating evidence that should be shared with the American people. So I trust Robert Mueller's judgment, but Robert Mueller got it wrong, is what he's saying here. Here's another video for you. Let's wind the clock back one more time, yet again. This is going back to July last year, James. Check this out.
Have you advised the president not to tweet, at least not to tweet about his attorney general?
Good luck about tweeting.
An honest and sincere and funny moment there from Rudy Giuliani. Good luck when it comes to tweeting. It's clearly the president's preferred method of communicating, and we know Robert Mueller is now looking at them. But Twitter is also an outlet.
I'm surprised Robert Mueller didn't come up with more evidence, James, considering he was reviewing the president's tweets. $30 million of looking at tweets. There are 60 million people who do it for fucking free. Free.
For the president, especially lately. Our friend Phil Rucker noticed something as well, tweeting, quote, White House aides say time on the golf course, especially in Bedminster with its lush rolling hills, helps Trump clear his head after a busy week as president. Check his Twitter to see what he's thinking right now after 2 days of R&R. So we did. With a clear head, the president only played his greatest hits. Attacks on the media, tweeting, quote, driven insane by their Trump derangement syndrome, very unpatriotic, anti-Trump haters. And then he turned to those tweets we talked about at the top of the show about Robert Mueller, the harshest attacks on him yet, calling the investigation an illegal scam of a witch hunt. Joining our table, Karine Jean-Pierre, a Democratic strategist, now a senior advisor with MoveOn.org.
I want to know what the Democratic strategist and now senior advisor to MoveOn.org thinks about all this, James.
And Mike Duhane, a Republican strategist who served as political director for the RNC. It's my mission to make them agree on at least one thing. Jennifer and Eugene are still here. Mike Duhane.
Now, if you want to see how the corporate press, even last year, was trying desperately hard to strangle remaining breath out of the narrative, James, watch the way that this host deals with the guy in the grey suit who's on the Republican side of the debate. Check this out.
Rudy, your old boss, your friend, is he helping or hurting the president at this point? Or can the president not be helped when it comes to the Mueller investigation?
I think he's helping in terms of...
How's he helping?
Well, I think...
She doesn't let him answer one question. Watch.
Everybody's talking about different things right now. And
so the confusion is the strategy?
Well, I think it's part of it. I think
so confusion is the strategy?
Legal strategy. I think what you saw was Rudy, as his attorney, moved him off of some of the FEC...
Oh, shut up!
He moved him off some of the FEC issues with some of the complaints about that and clarified some of those. And in
how did he clarify? You're talking about the campaign finance?
About what?
You want to know why nobody's watching corporate press anymore? That's why. Let's jump to a couple of days ago, James. Let's get topical here. We'll do it like herpes and get topical. This is Chucky Schumer, James, talking 2 days ago?
Now that Special Counsel Mueller has submitted
to reload again.
Submitted his report to the Attorney General, it's imperative for Mr. Barr, to make the full report public and provide its underlying documentation and findings to Congress. Attorney General Barr must not give President Trump, his lawyers, or his staff any sneak preview of Special Counsel Mueller's findings or evidence.
It gets better.
You have to give us everything. Everything. We get everything. President Trump can't even look at it. Nope.
Yes.
Don't even let him look at it. But you have to give us everything.
Yes. No, this is a special new kind of law that we're constructing here, where the president gets to be kept in the dark about things that happen at his own discretion. Remember, he could have fired Mueller at any time. That was the other thing, too. Over the last 2 years, President Trump could have fired Mueller at any single point in time if he wanted to.
And the White House must not be allowed to interfere in decisions about what parts of those findings or evidence should be made public.
Now, isn't this an interesting precedent we're setting here, James? Do you see how these are the people who have been attacking Trump for, what would you say, tearing down the institutions, James, over the last 2 years, right? President Donald Trump is tearing down the institutions. Now they want to take the matter of redactions and, classified information out of the White House altogether. Now, wouldn't that be interesting in future times if, say, the House being run by the Republicans came back and there was a Democrat president in the White House and saying, no, we're going to release all of this information, and the White House has no right to decide which information gets out there and which doesn't?
The special counsel's investigation focused on questions that go to the integrity of our democracy itself, whether foreign powers...
Don't say that, Chuck. Don't say that, Chuck. Remember, no more indictments, no collusion, no investigations.
...corruptly interfered in our elections, and whether unlawful means were used to hinder the investigation.
Yeah, the answer's no. The answer's no. Yeah,
a bit more. Yeah, that was already answered.
The American people have a right to the truth. The watchword is transparency.
The watchword is transparency, James. Go ahead.
No, what they're trying to set up has already been answered, and that's why we have to fucking hammer this shit home. Because literally, between Mueller and Barr, the statement clearly was what these guys were trying to imply was that there was improper interference in the investigation. And the way they were trying to sell it was that Mueller wanted to talk to the president, but they denied him. Mueller wanted to investigate Ivanka, but they denied him. And it was already clearly 100% black and white stated, no such incidents like that occurred. All of that narrative in the media was literally debunked 125,000%. Like he said, not a single request by Robert Mueller ever was interfered with or denied. Not one. And still, we got a classification of no one, not even the Russians, were found and charged with collusion.
I think you're missing the point, though, James. If you really, really, really want something, then it must be true. Let's go back to our first video here of this turkey from Memphis, Tennessee. Listen to what he says here.
That's what's happened. It's clear as
last
you
year.
Could have it. The president knows that Mueller knows things about him and his campaign that were incriminating, so he's attacking, like Roy Cohn taught him, the investigators, and that's unfortunate. Robert Mueller's an American hero. Donald Trump is not.
All of a
He's
sudden,
an American hero.
Personal attorney Rudy Giuliani today telling CNN that he doesn't know if collusion with Russians is even a crime. What do you think of this new line?
Well, I think they're getting closer to knowing that the truth's going to come out, that there was activities with the Trump campaign in Russia and releasing those hacks and guiding them to the states and the localities where they came from.
Yep.
Some of that was Jared Kushner's responsibilities. Some of it was Donald Jr. I think you're going to probably see indictments of both of those people.
Now, this guy, why isn't this guy being brought on CNN today to say, hang on, last year you were so sure. You knew that there was incriminating evidence in the Mueller report. You knew that Donald Trump Jr. and Kushner would be indicted as a result of the incriminating evidence in the Mueller report. Where the fuck are you today? Where the fuck are you? From Memphis, Tennessee. Come on, mate. Like, bring these people out. Don't let them forget. Send this clip to him and say, hey, what happened? You were so sure. You let the team down, buddy. You let the team down. Here's another article for you, James. This is a hammering. The hammering to end all hammerings. Why Donald Trump shouldn't celebrate the Mueller report in USA Today. Special counsel, let's go down to this part here. Profoundly swamp-like conduct at least. So now he needs to be impeached because he's acting like a swamp creature, James. Given the evidence already breaking the seams of the public domain, what evidence? It is hard to imagine that Mueller's report will offer a full exoneration of the president and his campaign. Well, imagine it. Imagine it. It's hard to imagine. No, it's quite easy. Just look at the news. Democrats may be disappointed that Mueller did not indict the likes of Trump Jr. and Jared Kushner, who many consider the closest orbiting co-conspirators to the president. So you see, the story, they're still going to believe the story. This isn't going to change a damn thing to the true believers. That's how insane they are. This Mueller report coming out and no more indictments, no more prosecutions, no collusion, none of that. It's not going to change a thing. They are just going to keep on going. Well, you know, they're still calling them co-conspirators, James. But given the signs that Mueller's investigation has been thorough, his report will likely be a treasure trove of evidence that, if not establishing outright crimes, here we go, will establish profoundly swamp-like conduct by Trump and members of his inner circle. Slow clap. Can I get a slow clap for the people at USA Today? Well done. Well done. Unbelievable stuff.
This is... Go ahead. You got more? We got more to go, right?
Oh, we've got plenty, but you go. You jump in.
Well, no, I've got a couple of tidbits that I'm kind of saving to see what video clips you pull up, because there's some real gems out there. Great comment in the chat that said it's been fun watching CNN today. See, we've been telling you guys. That's why Trust and Verify is such a fun show. We use CNN constantly. The best is watching Wolf Blitzer have to read William Barr's statement and watch his face like he was exploding on screen. You could watch. He had nowhere to go. The cognitive dissonance is driving him nuts. But there's a reason for that. We're going to get to that. There's a reason why these guys are having this cognitive dissonance moment, and we're going to get to it. Go ahead.
Okay, I've got another one for you. Shelton Whitehouse, who I think is probably the dumbest senator on Capitol Hill.
And he said he would not likely try to question the existing precedent within the Department of Justice that a sitting president can't be indicted by the Department of Justice. So it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because if you're the Department of Justice and you say...
By the way, this is back on January 15th.
You can't indict a president because of this policy, then a president never gets indicted, and the proposition that you can't indict a sitting president never gets tested. So we've got to look at ways to try to get that question before a court so that it can be determined where questions of law get determined in the United States of America.
See, you have to remember, they were so sure that this was going to be the bombshell report that they believed it would be. The question wasn't whether or not President Trump will be indicted. The question was, of course, there's going to be evidence to indict him, but are we allowed to do it? Like, are we legally allowed to indict the president? They didn't even care. They weren't even considering the possibility that there might not be evidence to indict him. They'd already decided, James.
Very similar to the election.
Very similar indeed, my friend.
And that's in court and not in the upper offices of the Department of Justice.
Well, quick follow on that. Does your urgency and sensitivity to this issue betray a sense that you think this president should be indicted?
I think that if there are crimes that he has committed, he should be indicted. I do not at all subscribe to the OLC theory that a president can't be indicted. I think that the Office of Legal Counsel in the Department of Justice bends over backwards to take the most executive branch friendly position that it possibly can. But I think a court taking a look at this would say, no. And if you look at the Nixon precedents and others, they don't align with a president not being answerable to the public in this way.
Yeah, he resigned, didn't he? He resigned.
Yeah,
right?
he resigned.
Yeah.
There was no convictions. There was no charges brought. No. He wasn't even impeached, you fucking retards, which you keep trying to sell the American people. You keep trying to sell this bullshit. Meantime, every one of you ignores the entire assassination of President McKinley. It's very odd, isn't it? No, not really. It's politics, because McKinley was like one of us. McKinley was MAGA at that time. And if you look, this is the conspiracy theory. I got to get conspiratorial, because you guys got to really dig and think for yourselves on this one, because this is definitely where the mainstream media is going to say, that guy's a whack job. He just admitted it. And I'm going to tell you what. They assassinated McKinley. What was he against? He was against things like the 17th Amendment. He was against things like the Fed. And all of the people, like some of the richest people in the world that were killed on the Titanic, also were all against the Fed. And what happened after these two events? We got the Fed. It's kind of strange, isn't it? No, it's not so strange. And that's exactly why people like this keep trying to tell you Nixon was impeached when he wasn't, and that there's collusion when there isn't.
James, this could just all be. So remember, I want you to remember the last 2 years of MSNBC, CNN telling you Mueller report, indictments incoming, indictments are coming. The president is guilty. Everyone's going to jail. Now the very same people are going to tell you what? It's a cover-up.
Going to happen here. So there's going to be conversations about this. I think that the first step that we're going to see this weekend is Barr is going to release the principal findings to Congress, to perhaps reporters who cover the Justice Department, but that's not going to be the end of it. I think that we very well may see a report that's completely declassified that covers and really encompasses all of Mueller's findings.
And just backing up Natasha's reporting, there was this call, NBC News reporting that GOP leadership, including ranking members, were on this call. Some interesting names that were part of that reported briefing. Devin Nunes, Donald Trump's chief flack in the House. Jim Jordan, another one of his chief defenders. Steve Scalise, who you've seen out this morning talking. Liz Cheney, who's the GOP conference chair, daughter of Dick Cheney, and others. A note of wait and see and caution, but glad there's no indictments. Nick, is there any reason to have confidence in William Barr here?
So far, so good. I mean, the letter says
now Barr's the problem. William Barr is the biased one.
All the right things.
Yeah,
and he's really adhered to the letter of the regulations, which is good. Mm-hmm. He has said that he wants to make this as transparent as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, there are things he cannot release that are grand jury or that are classified.
Sure, we don't care about that.
We have to wait and see. We just don't know if he's going to be true to it.
This guy doesn't belong. This guy doesn't belong on TV.
So far,
he's
so
not being hyperbolic enough.
That Nick is talking about, and just a little pullout from it. This was his letter to Congress, in which he said, "I remain committed to as much transparency as possible. I'll keep you informed by the status of my review." I remain cynical a bit. Nellie, are you on the cynical side with me, or are you on the optimistic side with Nick?
Is Trump's flunky going to release a report that might be damaging to his sugar daddy? I don't think so.
Oh my God!
Unbelievable.
So why do the Democrats want the report though? So they can get stuff that might be able to be spun as damaging to the president, and then they can just carry on. They can bury the Mueller report, the rest of it. They'll extract little paragraphs here and there. They'll piece it all together, and they'll say, it's one big cover-up. It's one big conspiracy theory that Donald Trump wasn't indicted.
I don't even know why we think that Barr isn't the one who stopped the investigation. Well, this is a 22-month-long investigation. Barr's been on the scene for a month, and now
because Mueller said so!
This Don King-looking motherfucker over here.
Strike anybody as odd? No, I have absolutely no confidence that Bill Barr will do anything other than what is in the best interest of Donald Trump. Now, what might be in the best interest of Donald Trump is to release information about all the people that Mueller prosecuted.
Even Joy's not convinced.
And to release information about all the reasons Mueller didn't choose to prosecute Trump or his children without releasing any of the information about what they actually did. Right. Why wouldn't he do that?
release the information of what they actually did. You see, they're convinced that the evidence to indict them is in the report, even though Mueller has come out and said there will be no indictments, that there is not enough evidence, right? But
not even the Russians!
Not even the Russians, James. Not even the Russians. Not even the Russians.
What Trump administration official
He's
has
outraged.
conducted themselves honorably throughout this entire process?
You got to hear this. Excellent comment in the chat. This guy is Don King's Twinkie.
None of them.
Yeah.
Why would Barr be any different?
And that's the challenge, Malcolm, because
Here we go.
unlike the independent counsel, which that statute was allowed to expire after Bill Clinton, which can be a runaway thing of its own.
Yes.
But at least that's controlled by Congress, right? In this, which it'll leak. If it got to Congress, it comes out that day, right? But the fact that this investigation takes place within the Justice Department, which Donald Trump essentially controls, and that he got rid of the problem, Jeff Sessions, who the one decent thing that he did was just recuse himself. This guy is not recused.
One decent thing that he did.
Like
This guy is not recused. He should be. Everybody should be recused.
Well, I mean, theoretically, it could happen, right? These are humans. They're all fallible. Maybe he does feel some sort of loyalty to him. But, that's Bill Barr's one guy. There are secretaries. There are people who have to handle these documents. There are the FBI agents who did.
Somebody should be leaking classified information for the benefit of the Democrat Party. Please, release the evidence.
This themselves. I don't think that there's room for a cover-up, because why cover up the greatest scandal in the history of the United States with the greatest scandal in the history of the United States? Right. An attorney general trying to engineer that. I don't believe that's going to happen, because if they do, then you can just see copies of this thing falling out by the pallet load in front of the Washington Post.
So this could be the Pentagon Papers in a sense. That
how are these people going to react when the story of the Obama administration's cover-up of the illegal spying comes out, James, finally, when it finally breaks? Speaking of cover-ups, here's another fresh one for you, James. Mueller report is only part of the House Committee's investigations. It's part of a galaxy of evidence, a galaxy of facts.
Welcome back. I'm David Gura. This morning there is a chorus of calls for Robert Mueller's report to be made public, from editorial boards at major newspapers to lawmakers. And I'm going to read from a joint statement now from House Speaker
God,
Nancy.
do you remember that? Do you remember that speech?
Look at that. Look at that. Look at the picture they used.
Oh, my God. Do you remember that day? Wow.
Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. The American people have a right to the truth.
The truth.
The watchword is transparency. Well, here's how the next steps are being described in the New York Times today by Charlie Savage. The makings of an epic constitutional battle over the...
See, now executive privilege is the problem, James. That's the problem.
Executive branch's power to keep information secret from Congress started to take shape on Friday. Joining me now is Congressman Pramila Jayapal. She's a Democratic representative from Washington and a member of the House Judiciary Committee. Thank you very much for the time on this Saturday morning. And I want to start with what my colleague...
I know this will be good. I haven't watched this clip yet, but I know this young lady is completely fucking unhinged.
Kelly O'Donnell just reported that there's going to be a phone call at 3 o'clock this afternoon for Democrats to talk about a path forward. What do you expect to hear? What are you going to say on that phone call today?
Well, I think usually those phone calls are just to make sure everybody is in the same place in terms of what we know and what our strategy is.
Yeah.
I on the Judiciary Committee and we on the Judiciary Committee have been in very close touch over the last many weeks and months about exactly what is coming forward. We know that, first of all, the most important thing is that the Mueller report needs to be released in its entirety.
Is she saying that she knew that there weren't going to be any indictments, James?
Understand that there are certain pieces there that may need to only be presented to Congress and not to the public. But really, the public has a right to know what is in this report, not just the overall conclusions that Attorney General Barr is talking about, but actually the underlying information. I think second, on the Judiciary Committee, we have always been very clear that the Mueller report is a key part, but only a part of the ongoing investigations that we in the Judiciary Committee have a responsibility to conduct. And that
that's just a part of it. In other words, this doesn't change our strategy at all moving forward. This doesn't change our strategy at all, James. Nadler willing to take Mueller report to the Supreme Court, James. Let's take it to the Supreme Court.
First, just on our reporting that there will be no further indictments in the Mueller probe. That means, in the end, no member of the Trump campaign was
nice job, dirtbag.
Charged with conspiring with the Russian government to influence the election. Do you accept that no member of the Trump team engaged in that kind of criminal conspiracy with Russia?
Well, I don't know.
Do you accept? Do you accept? The special counsel, James, 2 years investigating all of these tiny little pieces of evidence. Remember, he's an American hero. Remember, he had all of these powers.
500 witnesses.
Yep.
I don't know. 500 witnesses. No case in the history of this country has ever had 500 witnesses. For Christ's sake, they took down the mob with less people.
Yep.
And they couldn't take down a single person, not even a Russian, for collusion.
They were getting their private emails. They even had a team investigating Donald Trump's fucking Twitter account. I don't know. I've got no idea.
First of all, we don't know what indictments are forthcoming from other investigations that.
There's other investigation. Don't worry about the Mueller for 2 years, James. The Mueller report. He's going to be indicted. There's going to be indictments. Indictments are coming. The Mueller report. The walls are closing in, James. Robert Mueller is the iceberg to Donald Trump's Titanic, right? It's all coming to
It's Mueller time, baby. It's Mueller time.
And now it's like, well, I don't know.
I got to say this. I have to say this. I said it, and I have memes on my Twitter handle that you can find that prove that I fucking called. Yeah, it's Mueller time, you fucking morons on the left, and you don't understand it's going to be you at the end of the day that pays the price for this. I fucking have the memes to prove it. I took William Pepperoni Nipples Legate's memes and used them and said, yes, it's Mueller time, you jackasses, and you're not going to like where Mueller time ends.
They've been spun out by the special prosecutor to the Southern District of New York or the Eastern District of Virginia.
Right, but his main mission was about Russia. You think he would? Yes. You think Mueller would send that to other parts of the Justice Department?
I don't know. That's one of the things we will have to see when we read the report.
Come on. So he's saying we don't know if there's other evidence. We don't know if more indictments are coming, James. But hang on. Adam Schiff says it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because if you remember this other article, despite no more Mueller indictments, there is significant evidence of collusion. Jerry Nadler, on the other hand, is like, we haven't seen the evidence. These people, the last video, the lady was like, oh, we got together to discuss strategy. Good job. Well done. It's good to see that you've got like a clear message now that you're all on the same page. All right, one last video for you, James, and then we can wrap it up. Ari Melba. I thought we'd finish with Ari because he finishes it off in the most perfect way possible by saying, just remember, at the end of the day, the media is your friend.
Let me close with a thought about what has happened. This entire investigative process began because Donald Trump did something remarkably stupid and against his self-interest. He publicly fired.
He won the election. He fucking won the election. That was remarkably stupid for him personally and against his self-interest because he's lost $2 billion in value since then. Yeah. The one remarkably stupid thing he did was actually win the fucking presidency for us.
Bad Trump.
Came up with a false cover story that's been exposed, and then he put the pressure on his own appointees in the Justice Department, whether they would stand up to that or not.
We've got someone in the chat saying, James, Manafort anyone, Cohen anyone? Yes. You know what Cohen went down for, you idiot? For taxi plates. Taxi plates.
Yeah, taxi medallions.
Tax evasion. Do you know what Manafort went down for? Money laundering and tax evasion, none of which has anything to do with the 2016 election. None of it. Nothing.
By the way, this is very important. Very important. What Manafort is going to get out of jail for isn't going to be a presidential pardon. Manafort's going to get out of jail to sing like a canary on the Ukraine deal that he was involved in. And guess who that implicates? Not Donald Trump. This is going to fucking be glorious to watch this year. But go ahead. Let's finish this clip, and then I got a lot to say.
Let's do it.
They famously did. Rod Rosenstein, fresh from his appointment, stood up to Donald Trump and tapped Bob Mueller for this role. Here we are, about 22 months
Stood
later.
up to Trump.
And as mentioned tonight, Bob Mueller has racked up 37 different indictments of people and organizations in this country and abroad, and secured so far an unblemished record.
Did he rack up those indictments, James? Didn't he farm those out to Southern District of New York and other jurisdictions, though, right? Because why? Why? Because they had nothing to do with the 2016 election, right?
Hasn't been overruled in his investigative techniques or his warrants or his searches, even when he took extraordinary measures, like going after the sitting president's lawyer. All through this, we've had a huge public debate in this country about what this all means. And there are a lot of bad faith actors that want to convince you that something in here along the way means you should automatically mistrust our institutions or our process.
I don't know. Maybe storming Roger Stone's house with 20 SWAT team guys, like, for some reason, they want you to believe that you should mistrust our institutions. When you have Adam Schiff saying, it doesn't matter if there's no evidence, we'll find evidence. Like, you know, we can still indict. I'm sure there's significant evidence in the Mueller report, even though Mueller himself came back and said there's no evidence and don't indict anybody else. Like, you should still have faith in, you know, the congressional oversight bodies, James, the likes of which Jerry Nadler chairs. And Jerry Nadler turns around and says, after 2 years, 500 interviews, all the subpoenas that you want, oh, we don't know. We don't know. We need to see the evidence, because maybe we'll find something that Robert Mueller didn't. You know, this is why you need to trust. And don't forget the press, James.
It's usually pretty easy to tell who those people are and what their agenda is, because they don't want you to believe anything works. As mentioned tonight, we don't have all the evidence or the facts yet. That will take time. But tonight, the system worked. The attempts to fire Bob Mueller.
The system works! The system works, James! 2 years. 2 years of the system working, as it should. There you go. Manafort in jail for something nothing to do with the 2016 election. Cohen, is he in prison yet? He should be. Nothing to do. Sitting there, in, making a spectacle of himself. Donald Trump is a very bad man who said some racist things. And I love my wife and I love my children. And I'm going to prison, sir. I'm going to prison to pay for what I did. But I remember once I was in the limousine with Donald Trump and he referred to somebody as a Negro, and that was very offensive. Yep, this is your star. These are your star witnesses, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely wonderful stuff. There you go.
Yeah, so before we play That's the Hammering final, I want to say, and I'm gonna drive a couple hammer nails home myself here. I started off last night when the East Coast was sleeping. I've given everybody a day to catch up to the news of why these people are saying this kind of crazy stuff on the networks. And there's only two answers, and there's only two you even need to understand. Let's start with the liars. There's people that know they were lying. They just know it. They made the shit up and they know it. Those people are lying because they want the clicks. They want the viewerships. They want the people. They're just using things that they learned from someone else, stole their shit and said, let's just go with it. They know they're lying. But here's the real red pill for the middle of the country, that they're going to wake up to this reality and why the media is going to be completely lost, and you're going to see it in their coverage. Watch this week. They're not going to know what to do or how to say it, and they're going to be stepping on each other's dicks. And here's why. They've been receiving false intel. I can prove this beyond a shadow of a doubt because of the reactions by two key players in this whole fraud. It's John Brennan and it's James Comey. Those two key players, if you watch what they said and when they said it, literally 2 weeks ago, John Brennan told you there was going to be more indictments. What does that tell you? That tells you John Brennan, a former director of the CIA, had bad intel. What does that tell you? That tells you that the Donald Trump administration knew what was going on, where it was coming from, and how it was getting out. What does that tell you? That just like I said a long time ago, Mike Pompeo cleaned the CIA out, and you can tell because Donald Trump gave him a reward. He made him the
I've got the clip
Secretary
here,
of State.
James. I've got the clip here if you want to see it.
In a letter to the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, Elijah Cummings, tonight, refusing to turn over any documents related to Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump's security clearances, the White House counsel wrote, the committee has failed to point to any authority establishing a legitimate legislative purpose for the committee's unprecedented and extraordinary intrusive demands, including the demand to examine the entire investigative files of numerous individuals whom the president has chosen as his senior advisors. As I have explained in multiple previous letters, it is clearly established as a matter of law that the decision to grant or deny a security clearance is a discretionary function that belongs exclusively to the executive branch. Joining us now, John Brennan, former CIA director. He is now a senior national security and intelligence
Mueller time, baby.
MSNBC and NBC News. What is at stake in this security clearance controversy between the House and the White House?
Well, I think the integrity of the system, the security clearance process, is at stake. If the reports are true, it sounds as though Donald Trump overruled the determination that was made by the intelligence community that neither Ivanka Trump nor Jared Kushner should receive a security clearance. It is unheard of that a president of the United States would intervene in that process.
Can I just start there? When you say unheard of,
that's complete
in your
lie.
decades
That's a complete lie.
Absolutely, it's a complete
okay,
lie.
So not only is it a complete lie, it is actually precedented to death that all incoming administrations almost unilaterally grant access, intelligent secret clearance to all of the members that need it on their way in from a transitioning government. This is like Ryman wrote happens with every single administration. Until those people officially go through the process, the country can't shut down while we wait for a bunch of bureaucrats to run background checks. That just doesn't happen. And that's precedented back to the foundation of the country. So that's a complete lie, what he just said. Unprecedented my ass. Every single member has to be signed off essentially at the authority of the president of the United States. Remember, everything that happens in the executive branch is done at the authority of the president of the United States. Nothing is done on its own authority. That is all complete lies. He appoints people to do things for him for his authority, period.
Michael Cohen, not to get involved in issues that are still very much a matter of criminal investigation.
Are you one who's willing to, at this stage of the game, venture a guess about where Robert Mueller is in his process and how close he is?
Let's hear it from the ground floor, James, the 30-year veteran of the intelligence community. Let's get his expert opinion in regards to the Mueller report and future indictments, shall we? Remember, this is real news.
A report, and beyond that, what you would expect from such a report?
Well, I think Robert Mueller wants to be able to conclude his work and turn over the investigative threads to the Southern District of New York, the Eastern District of Virginia, and other jurisdictions as appropriate. As we're coming up to 2 years, so I think he does want to conclude that. I wouldn't be surprised if, for example, this week on Friday, not knowing anything about it, but Friday is the day that the grand jury indictments come down. And also this Friday is better than next Friday because next Friday is the 15th of March, which is the Ides of March. And I don't think Robert Mueller will want to have that dramatic flair of the Ides of March when he is going to be delivering what I think are going to be his indictments, the final indictments, as well as the report that he gives to the Attorney General.
What did I tell you?
Johnny boy. Johnny boy. Johnny boy. Isn't it
What did
wonderful?
I tell you? Think about what that really means, people. You really have to dig in and think about what this means. The former CIA director, he didn't lie, did he? Come on. Look at his face. Look at his body language. Wait till the body language goes through the whole list. He was fed false intel, and he fucking bought it. Hook, line, and sinker. How long? How long was he being lied to? What does that tell you about all the shit that's out in the zeitgeist? Do you know why they're panicked? They just realized all of their sources are compromised. If John Brennan was compromised, they're all compromised. All of them. They've literally been all fed bullshit. They've been fed bullshit from the top to the bottom, all through the media, everywhere. Look at Adam Shitty. Why is he so convinced that there's something in the Mueller report? Why is he so convinced? Because he was leaked to. They leaked it to him. They told him it was in there. They told him what was going on, and guess what? It's not fucking in there. You know this because William Barr made a complete definitive statement, not a political statement. Notice, definitive language is used by lawyers or ambiguous language is used by lawyers. Lawyers are not fucking stupid. They know how to use language better than almost anyone in the world. That's their job. Their job is to argue literally over what the definition of is. Like, remember, Bill Clinton. Well, it depends on your definition of the word is. Are you fucking kidding me? Is fucking is, but lawyers will argue over it. When they use definitive language, it tells you that he's willing to set his balls on the line for what he's saying. And he literally lined all of these things and these points out. There is no more indictments anywhere. John Brennan said there was none anywhere. You understand? That is the big bombshell here. They were canary trapped. They know who's doing what. And that's why you're going to see absolute fucking panic from these people this week. They're not going to know what to do. They're not going to know what to report. They don't know who they can trust. They know their sources are compromised. Literally, the top source for the mainstream media, John Brennan, is compromised. And now everybody knows it.
James, sometimes is ain't what it is and ain't what she used to be. And then sometimes you bet the farm on a Mueller report, and even though it's Mueller time, baby, you just don't come up trumps. That's the lesson for today. Don't forget, never let these people forget. Never let the people forget for the last 2 years the kind of insane rhetoric, the overlapping contradictions, the lies, James, the shit that we just saw from John Brennan even 2 weeks ago. Oh, the indictments. Don't worry, the indictments are coming. They're definitely going to be indicted. And remember, now the story is, don't worry, it doesn't matter what was in the Mueller report. It doesn't matter. There's significant evidence of collusion anyway. It was never about finding truth. It was never about standing on a report. It was never about, getting to the bottom of some kind of corruption. It is all about, and always has been about, just having a cloud of guilt hanging over the president leading into 2020. That's the story, that's the aim, and that's the strategy. And that was a 1 hour and 15-minute long hammering.
Stop the hammering.
That is all we have for you this week. We look forward to seeing you next week. Boogie Bumper is live every single day of the week, multiple times a day. He is more out there than anything else. Follow him at Boogie Bumper. He's starting tomorrow, man. Are you going to get any sleep? So he's got his daily boogie Monday through Wednesday, and then
Monday through Thursday.
Monday through Thursday. Thursday is the free for all that goes on for like 75 hours.
Correct.
So he doesn't even get off the air. Doesn't even take pee breaks. Come and check us out again next week, right here at 1 a.m. on Sundays. Don't forget Pirate Radio Friday nights 11:30 Eastern. Ladies of Liberty Saturday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern. And everybody else that you love to hate. I love you guys. He loves you guys. If you want to follow him, you can follow him at Boogie Bumper. If you want to follow me, you can follow me at Real Person PLTCS. If you want to follow us, you can follow us at TAV Show, and you can find all our previous episodes on TAVshow.com. Aloha. Everybody have a great night.